Hey everyone, welcome back. We are here for week 4, halfway through our live sessions. Today we're going to talk all about IEPs and the IEP process, how to set them up, how long to set them up for, when do I start setting them up, when do I contact the parents, when do I do all that stuff. So hopefully that guides you a little bit as to the decisions you need to make. I am going to give a disclaimer that you need to follow what your district tells you to do. If your district tells you to set every single meeting up at the beginning of the school year, do that. If your district is telling you you don't need to do that, or they don't have you do anything specific, like you can follow kind of a guide that I've come up with, and obviously look at the legalities of your state with deadlines and things that need to happen there. So you're like, I would go to Illinois State Board of Education because I'm in Illinois. And there's a timeline there that'll say you need to email parents 10 days out before an IEP meeting. I know there's a little excusal form that you have to fill out if you've told them under 10 days. So I would check your state specifically to see if there's a timeline, and then your district, if you have a district supervisor or some type of admin, a department chair in special education, follow that timeline there, because I think that might be more of a guide for you. But again, I'm going to go through my process and show you what I did. If you are in the Facebook group, I did link 3 different freebies in there for you. I'll just go through them, just might as well. Okay. So at the beginning of the year, obviously I have a caseload of 10 students, right? You get all the IEPs, and then you start going through the IEP process of looking through when is their reevals, when is their annual reviews, things of that nature. And then I kind of just make a note of it. So I have an IEP due date checklist here. So it goes through and I have all the months. Again, this is in the Facebook group. If you are there, it's free for you to download. You can totally download it. And then I would put in, September, whatever, Samantha is due in September on the 11th. So I know I have to schedule the meeting before the 11th. And then I would do that for every single student. And if there is a reevaluation, I would put a mark next to it to know that I have to schedule a domain meeting, a red meeting, whatever you call it in your state, something, that meeting prior before the annual or before the reevaluation, so that they know you need to schedule a pre-meeting to get approved to do the reevaluation process. So that's what that meaning is. Previously in one of my districts, I did both of them together. I wouldn't recommend that. I don't believe you are allowed to do that legally. So you do have to have that meeting set at least, I believe it's a month to 2 months ahead of time. Somebody confirm or deny that. That you have to have that before, so that you have time to take your data and your information and gather all of that to bring it back for the reevaluation process. So again, that's kind of what I keep in mind there. If there's something that a parent has requested a meeting, again, that might go into this form that I have, or I might just set it up from there. Because parents request a meeting, it needs to happen in the next couple weeks, right? And sometimes we got to jump on the fly, but these are for your 1 year around the clock meetings, excuse me. Okay, so that's my first thing that I always do, is check my checklist of where my students are at, what you need to do. Let me just check. Saw a couple chats come through. Evaluation, send forms 100 days prior to the scheduled meeting, giving them time to read, sign, return, and service providers they would do the same, or they would do the evaluations. Yeah. I thought it was like 2 months or so. It might be 3 actually, now that I'm looking at 100 days. Your district, you have to send a form to request testing for evaluation. Yep, that's kind of what I'm calling the domain red meeting. But we don't actually meet with the parents until the evaluation process is done. And we have to do the testing within 60 days of the parent signing the form. Yep, that's totally accurate. Yep, you're on the right track. 90 days to evaluate after the signing. 60 days for us. So again, check your state, check what your requirement is. I thought in Illinois, it was 60. So in other states, it might be 90. Okay. So yeah. So I think that's why I'm thinking 2 months, like 230 days, kind of 90 for Nevada. Somebody just came in, I saw. Thank you guys for giving this information. 90 days for California as well. Perfect. So 90 days would be for you guys. So again, just check with your state if you have a website or anything like that, or your department chair, somebody else can help guide you for those numbers specifically. Okay, so the next thing I do is once I have an idea of around the time that I might want to schedule these meetings. So I typically schedule mine, if it's just an annual review, I'm going to talk kind of just annual reviews here. I look, so in September when we go back to school, I obviously would hopefully have those planned already, but let's just assume the next meeting is in October. It's October 15th because it's nice in the middle of the month there. Okay. In September, I would be looking at the next month. So in October, I would see I have a meeting that is due by October 15th. I would be contacting the parents thinking, now I got to kind of look at the dates so I know. So I'm not making something totally up. Okay, so 15th is a Friday. Say my team or my school meets only on Tuesdays. So then I would look at either the 12th or the 5th, the week prior, and I would offer those two dates to families that we're looking at the 5th or the 12th. Do either of those days work for you? Your child's IEP is due by the 15th. So we would need to have the meeting prior to that. They may say, no, those two dates don't work for me. Can we do the 19th? And that's fine too. Just know that your IEP is now going to lapse for those couple days, lapse kind of thing. So you need to document that they've asked for an extension of those 2 days to have it go on the 19th instead of the 15th. Okay. So again, I like to leave that kind of open to parents and give them 2 or 3 dates if possible, so that they can choose what they prefer. Like I said, I know my district does a specific day that we have meetings, and that's the only day that we can schedule. If for some reason Tuesdays does not work for a family, then I would accommodate them and give other options. I know related services and everybody else that have to schedule around it, it gets tough. So we try to keep it onto our meeting days. But again, giving parents that option, that flexibility of being able to pick a day. Okay. Once that is chosen and the parent has confirmed, I want this date and this time, then I would send the notification of conference. So I would open a brand new IEP, off of the one he had or she had. And then I would just create the notification of conference where they would get the date, the time, the location, who is attending, that 1-page form that tells them exactly what's going on. And that gets sent home either via email or in a backpack as soon as I can. And with that would come, I have a Google form that I've created where it asks for parent input, what their likes are, what their dislikes are, strengths, areas of need. Where do you see your child in 1 year? Where do you see your child in 5 years? I'm a middle school self-contained teacher. So I'm thinking, what do you want for high school? Where do you need me to push your child to hopefully get to? What goals and dreams do you have for them? And then I also ask the same questions to the students. If they are able to answer and give me details, then I get that. If they just say they want to be a cowboy, we go for it, right? It's their hopes and dreams and their wishes. Perfect. Yeah, for sure. I can send that form for parents. Yeah, it's just a Google form. I will leave it in the Facebook group if you want to head there afterwards. I will make sure that I send that. I forgot I mentioned that. All right, so parent input. Okay, so then I have also in the Facebook group that I just added is a pre-meeting checklist. Okay. Talks about what kind of meeting it is at the top here. Sorry, there you go. What kind of meeting? So I know. And then what the student is, the IEP meeting date. And then when do I need to send the IEP home by? So for some of you, it's 3 days. Some of you, it's 5 days. Some of you, it's 7 days. So you need to know a week before to send this home. And it's like right there. I put it in red. So I know that's when I need to send it home by. Again, this is free for you to print off in the Facebook group. Then the notification of team members. So in my district, I have to get a substitute for my general education teacher as well as myself. So if I want my general education teacher to be there and they have to teach a class, I have to get them a sub for that day. So that's just my little note here, the schedule any subs that are needed is what that says. So yeah, if you need an LEA, a nurse, your speech pathologist, your OT, your PT, behavior therapist, psychologist, a translator, other things. Again, I just kind of mark it of who I need. So I can even fill this out at the beginning of the school year before I even meet a student of to who is on their team, who needs to be attending this meeting. Yep, of course, there will definitely be a recording. And then at the bottom is my favorite part, is then you have to document, at least in my system, I have to document in my system 3 times that I've met or had a conversation with the family about the meeting. So when did I schedule the meeting and how? So I can put that there. That's my first box. So by phone, by email, face-to-face. It's kind of our 3 ways. And then the initial notification of conference that was sent home, how was that sent home? That's a little checkbox for me. I sent a reminder. Typically, I send a reminder 1 to 2 days before. If it's a family that I know might not check their email very quickly, it might be 3 days. So that they have that information and they know their meeting is coming up and they need to be at the school or whatever it is. Okay. And then the draft IEP. So you can send the reminder with the draft if that's on your timeline. If it's not, you need to also make sure you have your draft sent home so that parents can be an equal IEP team member, give feedback, give criticisms, whatever it is. And that way you are able to make adequate changes prior to the meeting and you don't feel rushed or scrambled. So that's why too, I like to send the parent input statement prior to even starting my IEP and creating anything, because that parent input statement is going to help drive present levels and goals and everything else that goes into it. Okay. Questions so far?
Okay. Would our state say if we have to send a pre-IEP draft home?
Legally, you have to. I think that's uniform to everybody. Legally you have to, because parents have to be a part of the process. You don't think you did that? Okay. My district does three days. I know lots of districts do 5 days. Where, so say the meeting's on Monday, you better send it the Monday before. You know, so just again, something to think about. Ask the question. If nobody tells you an answer, I would do 3 to 5 days, somewhere in between there. You know, oops, somebody just said ours is 10. So you want to give opportunity for parents to be a part of the process regardless. It's their child. So district says 7, but they prefer 14. So I would just go back and ask. It's kind of the the part where you're showing that you are intrigued by this and you want to do it the right way. So yeah, I would say just check for that. Okay. Because legally you do have to send it home to parents for them to not approve or sign off on, but to give feedback. And like I said, be an equal part of the IEP team. Okay. Made a note sheet with all these random days. Yeah, helps a lot. So yeah, a note sheet with all the random days and dates, that also works too. Okay. All right. Now, before we get into running the meeting, we're going to talk about how I actually go through the process of writing an IEP. Okay. So let's say you've already taken your data, you already have all your information from each student or that student, whatever, and all their goals. You know, hopefully your team is also doing the same thing if they have speech goals, OT goals, things like that. I would go into the system. Hopefully at this point, I've already had parent feedback. If I haven't, I would send an email again. You know, try to get them to give me anything. What's good at home? What's bad at home? What do you want to see? What their future's like? Again, all those questions are kind of going to help guide me to think what they need to do. So if they say they're really unsafe when they cross the street, again, functional life skills teacher here, I'm going to go and make a goal for crossing the street because that's community safety. They need to know how to do that. So kind of the parent input will help guide. I've met with parents previously in the past on frequent meeting days where we meet every other week, we meet weekly, just to kind of get an idea of what they're thinking, where they're at. I know some parents are more involved than others, but any sort of information, if they're like, oh, it'd really be nice if like they could use money. Great, let's make a goal on it. Let's make it something to focus on for the next year. And let's see how they do, right? I can take some benchmarking and baseline of where they're at. So that's why I really like to get parent input before I even start creating the IEP, because if there's something that does come up, wiping their face, whatever it is, I'm giving so many examples right now. But then I can kind of put it into a goal, and then the parents can see I am now part of the process. So then parent input is always where I start. Present levels, I look at where they were at previously, and make any updates or changes. If there's a new subject that we've covered or a new content area we've covered, I make sure that's in there. I know there's really no template to follow, but in the academic section, I always cover reading, math. If you do science and social studies, put those in there. And I usually just do a little header, like a little line that says math or mathematics. And then there's a blurb about, money skills, time management, or telling time, addition, subtraction, number identification, colors, shapes. And I go through all of the things that we've covered. Hopefully, if the meeting's in October, you have a little bit of an idea, but you can always make an amendment if you need to. So kind of cover all of the content areas so that I've had this happen. A student comes in the middle of the school year, you have all of that, or has gone out in the middle of the school year. That next teacher has all that information of they've covered colors and shapes and numbers and alphabet and whatever else is in there. So you want to make it as comprehensive as possible, but you don't want to continue to just keep beating it if it's all they don't know their colors, they don't know their shapes, they don't know their numbers, they don't you can list and make it a list of we've worked on these skills, we are not at that level of mastery yet, however we would still like to continue to work on this and focus on one area of the weaknesses that they have. Because I think that's the hardest part, is finding the balance of making that positive sandwich or compliment sandwich or whatever you want to call it, where you're trying to bring in the positives for academics, but then also throw in, we're still got some areas of growth and things that we can still improve on. So even if it is just, they really know how to get to their workstation. Awesome. Bring that in there as much as you can. I think parents get really caught up in all of the bad, that they don't see the good. And I know we all see the good. So that's what I do for academic. I think I kind of just went into functional a little bit for there, but I think about everything in their day. Organization, time management, self-care. I do a lot of clothing materials and changing in my classroom, toileting. You can talk about if you do community trips, bring that into functional skills, cooking, work tasks, if they do work tasks or any hands-on materials. Again, those are all kind of what I bring into functional. So my functional is a lot larger because I am a functional life skills teacher. My functional is very large and I have a good amount to say on that. Communication skills are in there, but it usually comes from me and my speech pathologist. Fine motor, if I'm going to bring in arts and crafts and stuff and say, we're not using scissors yet or things like that. That would all go in my functional section. Okay. Questions on present levels. I want to make sure that I'm not going too fast. We're good. Okay. So at this point, hopefully you had a good idea of where they're at, how they are doing academically, what level they are at. If you have an assessment you are using, bring that information in. If you use math equals, if you use ABLES or AFLs, bring that information in and says, based on the information provided by AFLs, ABLES, math equals, IXL, whatever you're using, math's easier for me to grab stuff from, unique, whatever it is. Make sure you're putting it in there because that's going to give more data-driven decisions versus I feel like they don't know their numbers. I don't know if they know their alphabet, whatever it is, stay away from your opinion statements and stay closer to your factual statements. When tested on their alphabet, they knew 22 letters. Okay. something like that, where you kind of stay away from they've improved this year. Well, how do you know that? So that's my biggest thing that I try to stay away from. I can talk about that in the meeting and say, I really think they've made a lot of progress this year because of X, Y, and Z. And then I can label that out based on what's in the present levels. Okay. So once you have all of that, you have your baseline, you have all your information stacked in there. You can see, well, I've talked about their time management skills a lot lately. I really think we should hone in on a goal in that. So then you go and create a goal on that. So if there's something that's major and it's impacting their entire day, for sure, use a goal on that and create the goal for that. I know we don't want to go overboard, so we keep it 1 to 2 per subject area, focusing on that independent living type of goals and also the academics too. So for me, like I said, it's functional academics. So if I talk about fractions in cooking, that's going to be my functional math goal. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of ideas. Also too, another major part of this is the behavior plan. If they have a behavior plan or they need to create a behavior plan, hopefully you have a psychologist or behavior specialist to help support you through the creation process of that, because you do have to create a functional behavior assessment before you have a behavior plan. And then there should be a goal tied to that behavior plan. I know this is the very briefest explanation of it because I know we're running short on time here. Okay, is there any other section that somebody wants me to cover and talk about before we stop recording for today? I know accommodation and modifications is another part of it. Good, thank you. I appreciate you guys. Again, look at what your program offers. I know my little program, our elementary school, they all provide cube seats. You can put that as an accommodation for them or a modification to their program. I know they always are used interchangeably. So, and you'll see a lot of overlap between the accommodations and modifications. If they are non-writers and they need a scribe, I think everybody feels pretty confident about that, but make sure you're double checking that those are still applicable and they don't not need it. No, that they don't need it. I just gave a double negative, so it's a positive. Just make sure that they truly need it. If there's state assessments or things like that, again, your director or your SPED director or assistant administration would be a good support to go to talk about what testing they get. It does typically state like grades 4, 5, 6 or grades whatever, K, 2, 5 or whatever it is when you click it out. So all right, it looks like I got 10 minutes left. That's just fine with me. We still got time. Okay. What other main parts? Do goal writing outline? No, I do not have a goal writing outline on TPT because that is very individualized to what my students need. So, you want to make it a SMART goal, measurable and student-centered and things like that. Attainable and does your district use Easy IEP program? No, we do not use Easy IEP. We use Embrace. But sometimes there are IEP systems that have goal banks in there for you. I would say just use those as a guide, but I wouldn't use that as a end all be all because your students are going to need extra accommodations and extra supports, prompting, visuals, things like that. So make sure that it's truly tailored to your student itself. Okay. Looks like we're just about done. Like I said, I know this was super brief. I am available to chat if anybody wants further information or specific about your students or anything in that. ACEify, Accessify, I don't even know what that is. Excelify. Maybe Excelify. There we go. For whatever reason, my brain stopped working. Okay. Excelify is another one. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'm going to stop. Thank you guys.